name is A.M Rycroft. I am a dark fantasy and horror writer. We're talking about young classic horror. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves and, let everybody know what genre you prefer.
Yeah, anyone who knows me, I'm Christine Soltis. I do horror, mostly predominantly horror and sci-fi. I've also done fantasy, like women's fiction. I've done non-fiction, things like that. I've been writing since 2003. That's when I wrote my first novel. And I have 22 at this time. So yeah, under my company name, SolsticeNightSky Productions. But I prefer sci-fi and horror. Those are my two tops. Brad.
My name's Brad, and I've got two novels I put together, and then also one short, novella, smaller novel. It's called Death Doth Hold Name. It's one of my favorite stories I've put together. It's in a collaboration of short stories under a title called Men's Best Short Stories, which I hate the title of it. But that's what they put it together as. The first novel is The Village of Ebon Hollow. I just put something together. It's a prequel to the classic film White Zombie, 1932, which I'm really pumped about that book. And it's been endorsed by Gary Don Rhodes. I don't know if anybody knows that name. He's a Lugosi scholar, fantastic guy. Been very kind to me. But I've been writing for a long time, but just really, had a few published works, just getting rolling here in the last 3 to 4 years, roughly. So that's amazing.
Hi, my name is Nicole Castle. I have always loved monsters and scary stuff. Little Nicole. I write horror. I write poetry, and I love it. I recently got published in a short story collection called Between the Lines, and it's pretty exciting, to just have your work out there, and hopefully it's getting appreciated and scaring the shit out of people. Oh, can I swim?
Yes.
Okay. I also teach. I teach literature and creative writing, and that's another love too. All my students, like I read my professors, they're like, well, hopefully you love horror because you're going to hear about it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, that's fun.
Could you all tell us like your home base, your home city, or where you're from?
Yeah, I'm close to Washington, Pennsylvania. I've lived in Pittsburgh and temporarily in Los Angeles. So I like to move around, travel, bug.
I grew up back and forth between Menneson, Pennsylvania, and Greene County. I've got roots in both areas, but primarily went to school with my crazy wife in Menneson, PA. Graduated in '99.
Cool.
I did not
We are actually from southeastern Michigan, Detroit area, suburb of Detroit, and made the journey to Pittsburgh. Yeah.
You're currently in Detroit?
Yep.
Excellent.
Born and raised in Pittsburgh, mostly in Mount Lebanon, some time in Shadyside, and spent 2 years in hell up in the Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area. Yeah.
I've hiked up there though, it's pretty cool.
It is pretty,
My
but
sister lived there for a while.
yeah, it's quiet. Yeah.
It's quiet.
Yeah.
Bears? A lot of bears?
Couple of them, yes. Couple nice wildfires, but it's mostly wilderness up that way. Kind of a depressed area overall. Just not a lot going on. So if you like cities, don't move there. Yeah. All right. So Nicole and I were talking a little bit about how vampires, Frankenstein, you know, those more basic horror topics. You know, now we have this splatterpunk, which Nicole likes to write a lot. You know, from my side, dark fantasy, you know, I've started to overlap sword and sorcery with, you know, your horror elements, you know, that ancient evil, The Walking Dead, that kind of thing. So, you know, what are your thoughts about the ways that horror has split off? Do you think it's helped the genre any, or do you think it's hurt it?
That's an interesting question, actually, because back in the olden days, and you know, like 1920s, 1930s, like White Zombie, and then you know the original Wolf movie and things like that. It was just like this, you know, hard kind of like villain, you know. And if he wanted like a woman or something, he just kind of took her. It was just kind of very basic, and it was interesting. And I always liked like the classic things like that. And now it's kind of like, you do see things like the Twilight, where they're like, hey, you know, I'm just a normal high school vampire boy. It's just like there's like 8 million different complex lines that are leading to how he gets the girl, which is the actual. That's actually what's happening. He just wants the girl, but there's 8,000 different plots in between to get there. There's also like the evolving elements that we see, such as the twinkly vampires that everybody's always talked about, which you would never see in a harsh villain in a classic horror film. You wouldn't see that. So I'm coming to really just miss like the harsh basicness that you get from classic horror, because the complex themes, like you know, I just watched that Riverdale show, which is on Curiosity. It's not quite. I don't know if you want to call it horror, it's like teeny bopper horror stuff, but they introduced in their very first episode, like probably 10 different lines. So anyone has to follow all 10 of those stories, do you know what I mean? Like, and they do that because they want to keep you fascinated by it. But I don't know, I would personally like to see that return to the basic type of style. It's probably not going to happen. I mean, we know that. And like what you were talking about with the crossover fiction, I'm okay with that. I am okay with seeing sword and sorcery and horror mixed together. I'm okay with a movie that has aliens and, you know, like a big monster from, you know, the Toxic Avenger or something. Just some kind of horror-esque theme with like a sci-fi theme. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the blending. But I just, I don't know, I do miss the old things. Is my personal feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we mentioned, you start off with, you know, the classic horror, you know, how the villain would just be, I'm going to take a woman, or I'm going to do whatever I want to do. But
that's it. He did it.
there is something to that. There's so much more underlying there. Like if you go to, I don't know if you guys have seen The Black Cat, 1934. There's so much insanity going on in that movie. It's unbelievable. There's necrophilia, but it's underlying. You know, it's they had to hide it back then. You know, it's there, but it's hidden. Yeah. So you have.
It's like subtle.
It's so, or like Murders in the Rue Morgue, 32, I believe it is. There's bestiality in that. I mean, you could go on and on. I mean, it's there. It's there, but they're hiding it. They're hiding it. I mean, and as you go forward to newer films, you don't have the censorship, so you can throw it right in somebody's face, and you don't have any problem. You know, as far as that goes. But I think it's been there. It's just been hidden. Some people, you know.
It's probably appears more phony too now. Like it's just like it's more like a phony feel to a lot of newer things.
Yeah, I guess there was art to it. I guess if you have to hide something, you have to do it very artistically to do it. Yeah. I guess that's my kind of take on that.
Well, I was just going to ask, so for you guys, the fact that it had to be hidden, right? That makes it more interesting.
Yes, because you have to unlock that yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm curious because as I was telling, do you go by A.M? Mm-hmm. Okay. In the early 90s, when splatterpunk came about, as kind of a rejection to classic horror, I was fascinated with the fact that these people were writing about what you just talked about, bestiality, necrophilia, you know, all these horrible things, and they're putting it on the page, and I'm absolutely terrified and sick and wanting to read more. So it's just curious to me, you know, talking about keeping it more hidden, and then splatterpunk saying, no, we can't be safe anymore, right? We have to put it out there. So I personally, I'm glad that some of the horror writers now are kind of bringing back the extreme horror and splatterpunk. Not necessarily bizarro, I'm sorry.
There are some good bizarros, but I just was curious, can you just define splatterpunk for anyone who doesn't know necessarily what that means?
Okay, it was actually a term supposedly coined back in like the mid-'80s, and it was this idea of rejecting the safe kind of not in your face horror that, you know, Charles L. Grant and Peter Straub and these guys, they have their place, right? But it was kind of a rejection of that, saying, you know what, we need to push boundaries. Horror is about an emotion, right? And you guys have kind of dropped the ball, and we're going to pick it up and we're going to see what we can do with it. So basically, some of the writers that were involved in it, Clive Barker, Jack Ketchum, Craig Spector, Jen Skip, Elizabeth Macy. So people who are still writing today, right? And they said, you know, horror is more than that, right? Horror is more than Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I don't want to put down the classics, right? Because they certainly have their place, but it's time to push forward, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Christine? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I meant more like examples, but you did give them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
you did give a
Did
couple
the authors?
authors. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Since Christy mentioned Twilight, I wanted to bring up the rise of YA fiction. You know, once upon a time, we just had
Young
children's and we had adult. And then we have all these other, you know, sub-age groups coming in. We've got the YA, we've got the middle grade and everything else, and then we've got the rise of the paranormal romance, like Twilight. With my own writing, you know, since you mentioned that it kind of has had that softening effect to that, you know, the monster is no longer just a monster, the monster is the romantic interest. I have had to find ways to separate my writing, you know, because I have vampires in my books, but they don't sparkle.
Yeah.
they aren't the weepy, moody type, you know, they are closer, they're closer to that classic vampire that I'm a vampire, I'm cool with it, I'm not afraid of what that means to me. So I've actually, instead of using the more modern spelling of vampire, I use the old spelling. Do you feel like the rise of that YA caused any of you to have to find ways in your own writing to separate yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I have a book. I haven't published it yet. I actually have that one out to a publisher right now. And I intentionally, you know, placed a very cruel vampire, like your old style type of vampire, in the center of it. And I was told, I was in a conference in New York, and I was told to take that vampire out. And I was like, nope. No. And then I just want to add that I was in New Orleans for October for Halloween. I went to a vampire ball. And all the people there were people dressed up like Nosferatu. Everybody was wearing old style clothing. You didn't see a single sparkling vampire. It was awesome. I have photos. But that's just something like that.
Was Lord Chaz there?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not sure. Because there's 3 different vampire balls. They
Okay.
fall on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Nice.
And they're all different ones.
Oh,
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
What was that in?
New Orleans. It was awesome.
It sounds like.
It was amazing.
Brad, have you felt like you have had to change your writing in any way to separate yourself from, you know, that softer horror element?
I have to be honest, I have not put any thought into that whatsoever. I just kind of get driven in what's in my crazy brain, and it goes on paper or in the computer. But that's a very good thought.
Yeah.
You know, it's very valid, it makes perfect sense. I have not put any thought to that whatsoever, to be
Okay.
honest. But I need to. It's awesome.
I guess for me, I've tried bringing in, you know, used to, the monster was the other, right? And now, you know, as time has moved on, the monster is actually somebody we can root for, right? And, you know,
I've always rooted for them.
yeah. So you know, I've tried to do that, to bring more of, to have my monster be the anti-hero. And I don't know if you guys had ever read writer Nancy A. Collins. She did a vampire, kind of a hybrid, named Sonia Blue.
Okay.
And to me, this is kind of an epitome of, wow, to have this, this being who, she does some pretty horrible stuff, but I understand, right? I put myself in her shoes. So I try to bring that into some of my writing. Root for her, you know, even as she's doing these terrible things.
It's fun when the bad guy wins, isn't it? The bad guy never gets the win.
Yeah, that's true.
I think as fans, you know, a lot of us will watch horror probably since we were young. Sometimes you just see the characters and you just think, I can't wait till they get killed. These people seem to go out of their way to make them obnoxious and annoying, and you're ready for them to die. It's really rare when you're like, God, I hope this person makes it through, because most of them are just DVs. You're like, God, just kill this guy off, please. And kind of what you were speaking with earlier, with the sparkly vampires and that, I call them just utterly powered boyfriends. It's like, why do you have to call them vampires if they're, it's just like a window dressing? Why don't they have the flaws? And it doesn't have to be necessarily stereotype classical things. Why don't you just call them mutants or aliens or revenants, something else? But you call them vampires
That's
for a
true.
reason. I hate to use that term cultural appropriation, but why do you got to steal the horror term for that and then not deliver on it? It's just an utterly powered boyfriend. He's got super strength. He's always going to be young and handsome.
Yeah.
He's brooding and cool. Why isn't he just, you know, a robot or something? I mean, why? Why has it got to be a vampire when you're not going to deliver on the vampire?
It's a good point, isn't it?
In the old days,
Certainly.
vampirism was a curse. I mean, I'm not particularly religious, but it was
It
hellish and
was.
a curse, and it was not something you wanted. Nobody wanted to be a vampire.
Yeah.
it was a fate worse than death because you did not die and get released from it, you just lingered. And
Yeah.
now it's like, it's cool. Sure, I'd like to be young forever, be able to do all those cool things and look cool, dress cool, have some good hair, you know, and yeah, I feel like that it just lost its way and you made it a superpower or something, just a generic, just throw the train in as a superpower and go with it.
That's very true.
And I'd like to also mention, the one thing that creeps me out with the vampire boyfriend, he's dead.
For 100
Yes.
years, too. He was
You're
like 100 years
having
old.
sex with a dead guy. Why is that sexy?
And he's cold.
I hate it when somebody gets in bed with cold feet, let alone when their whole body is a popsicle.
Yeah.
How does
How does
how
that
do you lay
work?
next to somebody like that? It's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you got Buffy, Twilight, you know, all these dead guys as boyfriends. Like, why does that get you going?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's probably why she went to the werewolf.
Yeah,
And then moving past vampires, are there any other trends that you see in horror, dark fantasy, paranormal that are really overdone?
Oh man, I think most of them are overdone. Just horror specifically?
Just any of them, yeah.
Because we've been seeing a lot of sci-fi that's repetitive, unfortunately. Arrival just came out, and I mean, if you think about, what was it, The Day the Earth Stood Still? I mean, there's so many similarities. You're just like, and I'm a huge sci-fi person. I love it. I'm aliens. Everybody knows I love aliens. But when I started, the difference was that they were using linguistics in Arrival. But there, you know, you did see so many different elements that were just the same. I have seen that in sci-fi. There was a moment in time where there was so much zombie going on that I just couldn't even hear the word zombie. I was just like, stop, no more. And then there was that huge vampire phase during Twilight because everybody wanted to replicate what Twilight had done. So yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be that really irritating moment where things are just being overdone. What I like is some psychological horror. I want to see someone going through some crazy mad hell. That's what I want to see sometimes, and I think maybe we need more of that.
If we all asked ourselves, what's your favorite horror movie, you probably wouldn't say nothing from 2017 or 2016, or you go back to the 80s, you go back to, so it, the writing went flat at some point, you know, maybe my writing is very flat, I might be a victim of that, but it definitely is repetitive. Whatever is a money maker is going to
You're right.
go on and
It's
on and on.
yeah.
So Twilight, like you said, Twilight is fantastic. They're going to try to duplicate that 50 times over to make the studio another $1 billion. But yeah, it's, I don't know. Like I said, if you ask yourself what's your favorite movie, you're not going to say something from the last 10 years, probably, you know. So it's the writing is probably very flat and repetitive in nature, unfortunately.
I don't think that's overdone. I shouldn't say it in the zombie capital of the world, but
Was it? It is zombies.
Yeah,
They
zombies are a bit overdone. But one thing I was going to say, something that I thought was really fresh, is have you guys watched that show Black Mirror?
I
It's a
know
Netflix
it,
show.
yeah.
It's Twilight Zone-esque. It is some of the best writing, and it focuses a lot on technology, like being the villain. And it's not technically horror, but it will scare the crap out of you.
I need to be scared. Nothing scares me anymore.
It will, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
it will. Guys, check it out, Black Mirror.
Not to check this.
You'll watch it and say,
you see it coming.
We are here, this is happening, which again, you know, is something horror does too though, right? It represents our fears of the time, and it's here. Right? You guys have watched it?
Oh yeah, the first 2 episodes of that show are so fucking.
Yeah.
It just makes you just want to just be a shit smear on a carpet.
Well, I'd be afraid. Well, at least experience it.
You'll love it. The writing is excellent. Production values are excellent, and it's what I would call maybe one of the scariest dystopias, because it's soft and subtle, and it's coming. It's like you see all these trends.
Yeah.
It's like
You love science fiction.
like
Yes, very much
if
so.
Idiocracy wasn't quite so sarcastic and a little bit in your face, but much more insidious and subtle. This is like, it's coming. It's just when it's going to get here.
They had that one real positive episode last season too, with the virtual reality where the lady was passing away. It was like real time. Like I'm sitting there crying watching the show. It's
I mean, it's a big topic, a wide range of topics, but well
And
written.
timely.
Very timely.
I've missed Stranger Things, and I've heard good things.
Stranger Things was really good too,
That's
especially
great.
if you're a little older and a child of the 80s. You know, if you were a
Yes.
young kid, early teen in the 80s, you'll definitely love that.
Well,
Yeah,
the
you can still appreciate it though. It was well written also.
Oh, yeah.
The thing I like about Stranger Things is Stranger Things kind of takes that modern take on the 80s horror.
Yes,
Right.
see, that's what I want to see. I like to see stuff like that.
Those best elements. You know, the first scene in Stranger Things is very much, 2017.
Yeah.
But then it flips over to the Dungeons and Dragons game,
Yeah.
and everybody who was a kid at that time, was like, oh, flashback.
Yep.
It was great. I really think that.
Excellent.
I should have probably separated television from movies being flat, because television is probably an all-time high, as far as that goes.
That's true. That
There's so many good series on TV.
I see the more non-traditional ones like Netflix, and I think even Hulu's doing something now. You hear all these shows that aren't the mainstream big, 3-letter networks and stuff like that, and there's some really good stuff out there. Black Mirror, highly recommend it. I think anybody here that's seen it would recommend it. Check it out.
With so many different plots having been rehashed over and over again, like the vampires, the werewolves, the zombies, is there anything that you've gone out of your way to avoid writing in the way of a plot because you feel like it's been voted on so much? Has that actually held you back as a writer in any way?
No, I wouldn't say so. My ideas usually come either from a nightmare. I don't know if you want to call it a nightmare because it's great to me. But it'll come from I'll wake up and I'll have this image of what happened, and then or I'll be out on a hike and I'll see something creepy, and I kind of just take what happens at that point in time. I do always try to find something that hasn't been done before. I have a couple ideas I'm not gonna talk about now, but there are things that what I'll do is if I come up with an idea, I'll Google it and see if that particular thing has been used before or not. But I do try to use some unique ideas, but I love some of the old elements, so I'm definitely gonna put those in there. I love dystopias too, so I like any sort of future world that seems kind of dreary and things like that.
Well, that's another thing that the YA people have kind of taken over too, is this dystopianism.
Yeah, they sure have. I like to put really cruel people in mind. To show that we might be evolving into assholes.
I'm in with my writing, just embracing some of my favorite things, basically, whatever I like, maybe elaborating more on that, and just playing off that a little bit, I think, I don't know, trying to bring certain things back that I like that you don't see, or maybe something, you sit down and watch a movie and you go, I wish they made a movie like that again, and so I try to sit down and write that same thing, and something to that effect as well.
I don't, nothing's really off limits anymore. It used to be. I was a lot more concerned about what are people going to think about me? And now I realize if that is the story I need to tell, that is the story I'm going to tell. So I just hope I'm not going to lose a lot of friends along the way.
Are you writing about them dying or something? That could be having an effect.
So, yeah, so far, it's working out, but, yeah, I think, I certainly understand self-censorship, right, but then there's, of course, the stifling impact of that, and I want to be free. So, yeah, no, there's probably really nothing that I won't touch on. Because I guess that's the stuff that, like you're saying, the stuff that interests you or that you want to read.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm going to write.
And then talking about writing horror in general, do you feel like it was something you were born to do, or that it kind of got into your blood later? I know I wrote my first horror short story when I was probably about 7. I think my teachers looked at me quite different afterwards, but I think that I was always born to do it.
I mean, I grew up on horror movies since age 9. I also grew up on a lot of road trips where my family would tell me about the Mothman. A lot of people that know me know that the Mothman, or they'd be like, oh, there's giants hiding in all those trees. You know how you drive by and there's this big cluster. There's giants in there. I just really try to look, and we'd go up to Fort Ligonier and they'd say, the headless horseman comes out at night. So I grew up with all of that. So I mean, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I watched Nightmare on Elm Street as a kid, and I think it just kind of, that became part of me ever since I was little.
You definitely grew up with strange tales. My father used to talk a lot about an experience with Bigfoot. He had he's talked about how when he was up in Canada, how rocks were projected up into a river that he was at, and it stuff like that goes to your mind, and it opens you up to another world. It's completely fascinating when you're that age and you hear these strange, crazy tales, and you're like, wow, Sasquatch, really? But my family was never really into horror films or anything of that nature, but I don't know, I just kind of fell in love with it as time ticked on. My mother was always a fanatic of classic films. Fell in love with black and white movies, it's like transporting into a different world, and I think that's what I felt. You can escape from who you are for an hour or two, and that's a nice thing. I think that's where I'm at with it. I think it wasn't something I just at a young age woke up with, but definitely fell in love with as time went on.
They do say that Bigfoot throws rocks.
I've heard that. My dad believes that too.
Just saying, that is one of his trademarks.
I've always loved scary stuff. I loved monsters, or I love monsters. I was a kid of the 80s, and I just remember my mother having those old paperback horror novels with the ones with the real, explicit covers, the claw coming out of the sewer grate and all that. And I remember looking at them just thinking, that's the coolest thing. I didn't really understand everything going on I tried. But again, you guys talking about going to see horror movies. You know, I saw Alien in the theater when I was 8.
Lucky.
Yeah, I do. I count myself lucky to have seen Alien, The Howling, you know, American Werewolf in London, all the Halloween, right? So all these things, you know, just the initial attraction to it, I don't know where it came from, it was there, and then just building on it through the years. So yeah, it's the only thing that I can really write, I guess, you know, essays.
I'm sure you can write other things.
Yeah. I do like poetry too, and that's not generally really dark, but fiction is usually always dark and weird.
Yeah, I remember my first exposure to horror because my mother in particular was very adamant that I was not going to go see horror movies, I was not going to read like Stephen King, all that stuff.
She wanted to eat more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't handle it.
Probably my first low-level exposure to it was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. You remember those books? Yeah. I read that book over and over and over, and each one that came out after that, I had to have it. Do you remember what your first exposure to horror in books, movies?
Yes, I definitely do. My aunt actually gets credit for that because while my family would always show me movies, my aunt actually brought along the books. And she introduced me to Dean Kunst, who I still, like, I think Lightning is still one of my favorite books. That's not quite as horror, that's more of one of his time travel sci-fi ones. But I read a whole ton of his books, 12, 13 years old, like Twilight Eyes, you know.
Love that one.
Yeah, he had so many. I remember he had some where there were little creatures that would just kind of, they would focus on a certain person.
The dark.
They would go up. I don't know which one it was.
Too, yeah.
But they would just, like, they would, you know, surround your car.
You couldn't escape them.
You could not, yeah, no matter where you went. So, like, Dean Koontz probably gets the best credit. I wasn't allowed to read some Stephen King, especially Gerald's Game, which I still haven't read, I guess. That was one where it was like, your sister can read it, but you can't. And I'm like, why? There's like a bed on the on the cover. I guess it's like, I still haven't read it.
I was never a big reader growing up. I had 2 older sisters. You know, I'm 35. They're close to 50, so they were always they always had something crazy on. It was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. My dad had a satellite, and it scared the shit out of me, you know, growing up. But always had something crazy on. It was never, unfortunately, not a big reader growing up. You know, just diving into novels and things of that nature. But always had something that was projected on me that was, having sisters in the 80s and growing up, they definitely would throw that environment on you. So I guess that's maybe where influence a little bit there from that.
I don't know if you guys remember these but there was in the probably around 83, 84, 85 in there. There were these books that for kids, and they were called Dark Forces. Did you ever see these? With such fun titles as, you know, Devil Wind, and, you know, what's the one about sacrifice? You know, one had human sacrifice in it. You know, tarot, you know, Eyes of Tarot.
Well, during the Satanic Panic and stuff.
Oh yeah, there was a Satanic Panic.
Yeah, that was during the Satanic Panic in the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, you know, my grandmother's buying them for me because she's not paying any attention. She's like, oh, yeah, they're for 10 and 11-year-olds. Okay, here you go. And I just ate them up. up was A.M Rice
Oh,
and
yeah.
Barker, Cliff Barker, and then I was on. And then Splatter Punk in the early 90s, and then, so, yeah, that's how it went, I guess, yeah.
Did any of you guys read Phyllis Reynolds Naylor as a child? I think that's the correct order of her name. She wrote Teaching Miss Tingle. They made a movie about that. She had a lot of, we consider young adult now, but that didn't exist back then, but a lot of fairly dark stories, and they were pretty cool and pretty dark and pretty advanced for kids. That was another author that I thought was maybe more targeted towards children, but pretty advanced for the time. It was pretty good stuff.
I remember reading Miss Nelson is Missing. I don't know if anyone ever read that. It was about this teacher who had these really bad kids, and she pretended like she disappeared, and then this other lady came in and she wore all black, and she was teaching them, like she was kind of like really mean to all of the kids, and they all listened to her, so that when Miss Nelson came back, they were nice to her, but she was the same person the whole time.
Nice.
So that's one that just sticks in my head. Miss Nelson is Missing. And I feel like I had a major witch fascination when I was a kid.
Do you guys think that horror and the different genres through the years reflect like the fears of
Society?
the population and society? Generally, like in the 50s, like with the giant fucking like insect atomic monsters and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then like when you look around to horror today, a lot of it seems like a reaction to terrorism or like 9/11 still. And if you do, what do you think is like the future? Like, what do you think will be like coming up next? Like, I'm with this guy here, like, you know, Black Mirror is all about social media because we're all shitting our pants about like giving up our privacies and stuff. And I just wanted to hear.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I would say personally, I would just say that I mean, obviously, if we're going based on trends, then they're all going to be dystopias because that's how everyone's feeling. Because no matter who you voted for, a lot of people were afraid of Trump's reign. So we're going to probably see a whole ton of people with that huge fear and that awful society where you're either controlled or the nukes went off, or there's a wall that's a barrier. Like people are segregated. Like that's what I predict as being the next trend. Even if they take like a group of aliens that have been a group of aliens that are segregated behind a wall or something. They're just gonna. They follow what's going on in society. That's where you look for your trends.
Yeah, it definitely reflects the decade or generation you're involved in, and history's going to repeat itself. I don't think there's anything fresh going to happen. Nuclear bombs already been dropped. There's not many fresh things going to happen, but it will be a reflection of the current time.
Well, we all start talking about healthcare and like the cancer rates are going up, and then like we get into like body horror and this kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I had written some notes down, and I said, horror represents fears of our time. And here's what I wrote: loss of identity. Technology is the villain. Loss of empathy.
That's true.
Isolation. And again, being an English professor, communication is something I think about a lot. And with the rise of social media making us very much less social, I was on a panel that was talking about possibly the next apocalypse, or the next thing that's going to really take us backwards. And communication, the fact that we are going to lose how to talk to each other, we're going to lose social interaction, which this is one of the things that makes us human beings, right?
We're not going to be able to read the founding documents in a few generations. Like, they're not teaching cursive anymore.
You're right, they're not going to know English at all.
I have a niece and nephew, and they can have whole conversations with emojis, and I look at it, and I'm like, what the fuck does this even mean, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of stuff, you know, and I don't know, like, seeing like that, like loss of communication, and that's kind of like going backwards in a way.
It is.
I do, yeah, and it's obviously not gonna be like, yeah, boom, immediate, like a zombie happened. But I think it's coming, and it really does scare me, actually.
That's why Black Mirror is so scary. It's a very subtle and semi-attractive dystopia. It's stuff that we already do now, and you see it on the rise, and it doesn't seem that bad until you see it from certain people's perspective. You just gotta see it, feel really. I can't recommend that wholeheartedly. No reservations if you don't like it.
Thank
Nicole
you,
will
Black
pay your
Mirror
Netflix
people.
bill.
It sounds like someone should be sending us some checks.
Yeah.
We know,
We check that.
we know people who sit next to each other will text before the talk.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
it's
We
really-
see whole tables of people out for the night, and they're just, like, the people are right there.
Mom,
Oh,
Dad,
yeah,
two
definitely.
kids.
Yeah. Now, do you think it'd ever go completely back the other way? Because like you said, emoji conversation, like the Chinese, Japanese, they use pictures to represent words. Do you think it'd ever go back around towards that's a new language again with just picture stuff?
Well, there's some studies that say emojis are the most expressive language because anyone can, it's not based on culture or geographical location.
Interesting.
Like you could look at a sad face and everyone could know that that's a sad face. But at the same time, I guess I'm just too old school because I'm like, yeah man, it's just a happy face. I don't know, well, you know, whatever.
It's a face.
Yeah.
Modern day hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Well, I still spell every single
Yep.
word out in a text. Every single one.
I think that's how you know you're a person who's maybe past a certain point, you know, there's a dividing line between the LOLs and stuff like that. My mom thinks that means lots of love, by the way. She'll say LOL inappropriately because it's lots of love. But, and then people that spell and use grammar and punctuation and that too. That's what it is.
True.
Well, we are just about out of time.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah, all right.
Time flies.
When you're having fun.
Did you guys want to talk about your own writing at all? Go ahead and
Like where we can be found or
go ahead and give yourself a shout out.
Oh, well, I'm here obviously. Tour around.
Nice.
I have a table here. I've released a new short story book, and to keep it cost effective for people, I'm charging only $5. So it gives you like a sampling of the way that I write and things like that. So come see me. Also, I can be found SolsticeNightSky Productions on Facebook and YouTube. I used to run panels at Rickert and Michelle books, so you can find some of the old panels about life on other planets, artificial intelligence, things like that.
You'll be found at, Five and Dime store. Just basically,
Classic horror.
yeah, the classic. Just Amazon, you know, that sort of stuff. So,
Oh, yeah.
You know, any type, we all, or, you know, any type of, what the hell you call it?
Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon.
Amazon.
Any major retailer. We're here for a weekend and hope you enjoyed a little bit of it, if any of it. And we always appreciate anybody taking the time to read
I'm writing
what we
a
put
book.
together. Absolutely, I'm right with you. Thank you. Sure. Thank you very much.
I turned my name around. And
Nice.
this is actually, we're with the Great Lakes Association of Horror Writers and GLAW. You can find us at GLAW, GLAHW.com. And what we are is we're just a collective of horror writers, dark fantasy, dark fantasy, science fiction, and not just writers, but artists, photographers, even just we have people that are part of us that are just fans, right? So, and again, the whole idea is just to support each other, get our writing out there. So we have a ton of anthologies that we do member only, and then we have a magazine that I edit for GLAW called Ghostlight, the Magazine of Terror. And I just started taking submissions March 1st. So if anybody wants to check it out, I'd love to see some of your work. And check out our website and see if you might want to become a part of us. So that's great. Yeah, thanks.
If anybody's interested in my stuff, dark fantasy, horror mashup, I've got a series that is about to go into its 3rd and 4th books. A little bit of ancient evil, some vampires thrown in there, dead guys. They are not the love interest. So, and I've also started to publish other people's stuff, so I actually have a short story anthology at my booth. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. A lot of dark fiction stuff, a little bit of science fiction, dystopia. Great collection. Like I really like every story that's in there. So.
Yeah. Well, for me, when I do the Ghostlight, one of the things I think of is, does it linger? Right? You know, do I still think about it 2 weeks later? Do I? Still, right? Because those are the ones. Got something.
My wife says the same thing about me all the time.
Doesn't linger.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you guys. Thank you.
Oh, on April 1st, there's a Butler Paranormal Conference. If anyone wants to go, I'm going to be up there. They have a lot of Bigfoot people. if someone's throwing rocks, it's probably me.
My God.
But it could be Bigfoot.
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you as
Stop
well.
around, see you. Thank you.
Yeah, are you having a table?
Yeah, yep. We have the GLAW table.
Okay.
So.
Excellent.